I ask unanimous consent.
Without objection.
Thanks very much. Well, Mr. President, I rise today to highlight the importance of supporting the brave men and women who protect us every day, our nation's firefighters in all 50 states. As I laid out on this floor last month, the fires that we face are getting worse, not better. Every day there are more fires ravaging our communities and more folks relying on firefighters for protection. Just last week, almost 4,000, that's 4,000 acres in our neighboring state of New Jersey were scorched by the Jimmy's Waterhole fire, forcing evacuations from something like 170 buildings and homes. In Pennsylvania, over 2,500 acres were burned and over 150 homes threatened, forcing the Pennsylvania Turnpike to temporarily close. Mr. President, let me just say make this as clear and as strong as I can. We have to support our firefighters. We have to support our firefighters so that when they bravely run toward danger to help others, they are well prepared, they're properly trained and equipped. That's one of the reasons why I continue to co-lead the Grants and Safety Act with my colleagues on the Congressional Fire Services Caucus. Firefighters put their lives on the line for us every day. And it's our duty to provide them with the necessary support that they need. I am proud to join alongside of Senators Gary Peters, Susan Collins, and Lisa Murkowski in fighting for this crucial legislation to better ensure that our firefighters are armed with the tools that they need to get the job done on behalf of other people. Today, I want to talk for a few minutes, if I could, about the Fire Grants and Safety Act, how it will actually have an impact on communities, not just on the East Coast, not just on the West Coast or in the middle of our country, but all over the United States of America. At a high level, this bill reauthorizes 3 critical federal programs that support local fire departments. Let me break it down just a little bit, if I could. First, this legislation will reauthorize the Federal Emergency Management Agency's staffing for adequate fire and emergency response, also known as the SAFER, S-A-F-E-R, SAFER Grant Program. The SAFER Grant Program provides funding for career, for volunteer, and some combination of local fire departments to increase the number of men and women on duty at any point in time. The job of a firefighter can be incredibly demanding, and baseline industry standards include protocols like 24-hour staffing to make sure our communities have adequate protection at all hours of the day and night. The SAFER Grant Program also provides funding to recruit staff so that we can ensure staffing needs can actually be met. For example, SAFER grants could help ensure that more personnel are properly trained and available on the ground to assist in major fires in the areas that need it the most. In states like Delaware, where the majority of our firefighters are volunteers, it's particularly important that staffing needs are met and resources are provided so that all first responders are ready to take on each day that lies ahead of them. The Fire Grants and Safety Act also reauthorizes the Assistance to Firefighters Grant Program. The Assistance to Firefighters Grant Program helps local fire departments and EMS organizations fulfill equipment and training needs like fire trucks and protective gear, all of which lead to a more effective emergency response. But firefighters do a whole lot more than just put out fires, as I think the presiding officer and others of our colleagues know. Annually, there are over 36 million emergency calls that fire services across the country respond to. Let me say that again. There are over 36 million emergency calls that fire services respond to across the country. And that's not going down, that's going up. I think an increase of about 20% over the last dozen or so years. Just a few weeks ago in my own state, a strong, dangerous tornado struck southern Delaware in the area of Sussex County, which is the southernmost county, in a community near a community called Greenwood and another community called Bridgeville. It was our firefighters who showed up to lead people to safety. We lost a grandfather when the tornado struck Bridgeville, as I recall. I think he was in his 70s, left behind a family. Ensuring that funding is provided for EMS alongside fire services is critical to the emergency response. Finally, the Fire Grants and Safety Act will reauthorize the United States Fire Administration to provide leadership, to provide coordination, and to provide training for first responders and health care leaders. Responding to emergencies is no small undertaking. It is a huge undertaking. And in addition to our firefighters, healthcare leaders help to guide the disaster response by making sure that people are taken care of both during and after an emergency response. The United States Fire Administration also plays a critical role in that coordinated effort, ensuring that our first responders are ready to handle hazards from saving lives to preventing loss of homes and personal belongings. Beyond the initial response, the administration collects fire data, they conduct important research and prevention methods, and they host public safety education and fire service training. This proactive approach assists local fire departments in handling future emergencies while creating a more comprehensive approach to fire safety. The life-saving work made possible by these 3 federal programs must continue, and we have the opportunity here in the Senate to make that happen. Last month, we came together, Democrats and Republicans, to vote. We voted to take up the Fire Grants and Safety Act. That vote passed by a whopping 96-0. It doesn't happen here, as the presiding officer knows, it didn't happen here every day, and is a testament to the power of bipartisanship. It's also a testament to the critical role that firefighters play in communities across America. Today, we will improve our emergency response, and we'll make sure that our firefighters have, if not everything they need, more of what they need. And I'm pleased that our president has announced his support for this legislation. I want to strongly encourage our colleagues and friends over in the House of Representatives to do their part once we've taken care of business here and send the Fire Grants and Safety Act to the president's desk. Mr. President, I want to go back a little bit in time. Remember a time when my sister and I were young and playing with other kids in our neighborhood, maybe our cousins or whoever were visiting us, and we had a fire truck. In fact, we had a couple little fire trucks. And we would take turns being a firefighter. And some days we'd put out fires, and other days we'd respond to imaginary weather events that endangered our community where we lived. Later on, decades later, my sister would have her kids, a son and daughter, and my wife and I had a couple of boys. And one of their favorite toys were fire trucks. And on more than a few occasions, they and the friends that would come over to our house to play would break out the fire trucks. They didn't have anything else to do and fight fires. And for them, it was just fun. They loved doing it. They loved doing it with their neighbors, their friends. They loved doing it with their cousins who might be visiting with us. That was fun for them. In the real world, while being a firefighter can be enormously satisfying, I don't know that I'd say it's fun. It's dangerous, and there's a chance that someone will get hurt trying to help out other people. And the risk can be, as we know, great. I just want to make sure that those young kids who grow up to be firefighters like the ones that we honored this past month in Bridgeville, the Bridgeville Fire Company in southern Delaware, I just want to make sure that they know that we value them, we value their service, we value their willingness to risk their own lives on behalf of other people, including people they may not even know. In the legislation that's before us, we have the opportunity to make that clear to firefighters around the country, states large and small, east and west, blue and red. Let them know how much we value them and the service that they provide to so many of us. And with that, Mr. President, I have a committee request document to enter the record. And Mr. President, I have 11 requests for committees to meet during today's session of the Senate. They have the approval of both the majority and the minority leaders.
Duly noted.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I think that's pretty much what I have here today. And with that, Mr. President, I don't see anybody else yearning to address our colleagues. And I would just note the absence of a quorum. Thank you so much.
The clerk will call a roll.
Ms. Baldwin.